All right. Good morning, everyone, or good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you are. This is Dr.SHIVA Ayadure. As many of you know, I'm running for President of the United States in 2024 election. But this is also a Thursday at 11 a.m., around 11 to 2 p.m. We do what's called an open house. And we have a number of people from around the world in our open house, but I'm broadcasting this live, a co-stream to people outside of our open house, plus to people inside of our open house, to talk about a very, very important set of events that are taking place that will give everyone the opportunity to really understand the trajectory that those in power want to take the world. And James Richardson, who's one of our Truth, Freedom, Health Warrior scholars out of France, and James gave a deep analysis looking at over the last 3 years how the efforts that I did in our movement saved millions of people's lives. And it was the movement for Truth, Freedom, Health, which was the first to expose the issues with the pandemic, the election fraud systems, the backdoor portal into social media companies. Elon Musk didn't do it. Robert F. Kennedy didn't do it, and fucker Carlson didn't do it. Now, I use those awful names against these people. Why? Why do I do that? And by the end of this conversation, you'll understand why Tucker Carlson really should be called fucker Carlson, and why Robert F. Kennedy should be called Robert F. Kennedy, and why Elon Musk is part of the establishment. And as James Richardson shared, I have to do the unfortunate job of always putting myself out there and calling out what will occur to warn people and what is occurring. And because of that, in 2020, we saved millions of people's lives. Okay, so I want to talk about this. And the title of today's talk is called The System Dynamics of Evil, Part 2. And this is Part 2. Why is it Part 2? Because yesterday I did a co-stream with one of my very good friends, Owen Benjamin, who is a warrior. I consider him a real man and a comedian who was essentially canceled from Hollywood because he spoke up. So, but let's talk about the system dynamics. Now, to those of us in our open house, whether you're veterans or whether you're new, and those of you out there, recognize the following, that the modern world is filled with systems. Everywhere you look, you have a system. Okay, you have your iPhone is a system. Your car is now a system. Everything inside your house is a system. Your body is a system. And this recognition of the knowledge of systems is going to be critical for your survival. And I mean your survival as a human being, plus your survival for you and your family. And so I want you to listen very carefully, because what we've been doing and what my life has been about for many, many years, since the age of 4 to I'm 59 right now, is to educate people on the science of systems. And that journey has brought us to the movement for Truth, Freedom, and Health. And that movement, you can go to truthfreedomhealth.com and explore that. But more importantly, that movement also has resulted in my decision to run for President of the United States. Why? And by the end of this conversation, you'll see why this is such a historic event, that a low caste, Indian from India, who is a naturalized citizen, is running for U.S. president. As James said, it is a pretty significant, courageous act. But let me walk you through this. All right. One of the things that people need to understand is the nature of the evil of Elon Musk, Robert F. Kennedy, and fucker Carlson, aka Tucker Carlson. And if you understand what I'm going to share with you from a systems problem, you too will recognize why these people should be exposed for what they are. As I expose in March of 2020 the nature of the pandemic, as I expose in our historic lawsuit that the government has a backdoor portal into Twitter in 2020, as I expose the fact that the election systems in the United States are corrupted by not some random garbage, but signature verification and chain of custody, which got all hidden under the rug by all the noise created by the grifters. All right, so let's talk about what I'm talking about right now, all right? Well, the history of humankind has been the history of the oppressed people below who do physical labor and physical work to build, be it the pyramids, be it bridges, be it roads, be it actually do work, being manipulated by a very small few who seek to extract as much labor out of those people and never reward them for their actual work. That's been the history of humankind. And over the many, many centuries, through massive struggle, people have made some gains. But with technology, those in power have become more and more sophisticated at how they're able to manipulate people. Technology can be used for incredible good, and you're speaking to a technologist who got a bunch of degrees from MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and has built technology. But that same technology can be used to subjugate people. So let's look at what we're talking about. In our movement for truth, freedom, health, one of the fundamental things that we teach is the principles of the foundations of systems. What are the foundations of systems? What is a system? Well, every system in the universe is composed of 9 principles, 9 components. And once you understand these 9 components, you will really learn how to think beyond left and right. But more importantly, you will also be able to discover real solutions and identify real problems. Okay? That's one of the important things to understand. So let's discuss the fact that one particular element of system science is to be able to, first of all, set a goal. Where does one want to go? Where does a community want to go? Where does a society want to go? Well, our movement, and the reason I'm running for president, is we need truth, freedom, health. Truth, freedom, health. They want power, profit, control. Very different goals. Now, if you have that goal of truth, freedom, health, you have to actually see what is actually taking place in the world, in reality. You have to see things as they truly are. And once you see things as they truly are, you can now then use our mind, our brain, our organizational capacity to put the right inputs into the system to change the world. And it has to be organized. Change is not something spontaneous. It is something that is organized. In the book System and Revolution, which took me about 20 years to write, I describe what is a system. I describe what is a revolution. Why do we need revolutionary change? Well, let me share with you one graph, which I'm sharing with our audience. John, you guys are seeing that graph, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This one graph should make it amply aware to everyone that those in power across media, academia, Hollywood, your quote unquote journalists, etc., have destroyed the health of not only the American people, but the world. So let me just share with you this one graph. And this graph just gives you a analysis of what has been going on. What do you see in this graph? What you see in this graph is that since 1980 till today, the life expectancy rate of the American people, America, has deviated from the life expectancy rate of the rest of the industrialized nations. And you can see this occurred, interesting enough, around the early 1980s, okay? And around 1984. And you can see each individual gray line there, plus the big red line, represents the life expectancy over time from 1980 to today of the different industrialized nations. The gray line is the averaging of that, okay? Now, what do you see here? You see, starting in 1984 around, the United States was at a trajectory for getting very good, increasing its life expectancy. But what you see is that it starts going in a wackadoodle way, okay? In a completely different direction. Remember, the United States is supposed to be the most powerful country in the world with the highest GDP. And look where the United States is going. Life expectancy is going in the complete different direction, in a lower life expectancy rate than the rest of the world. And what is life expectancy an indicator of? Let's talk about what is life expectancy. Life expectancy, to be clear, is an indicator. Very specifically, life expectancy is an indicator of the well-being of a citizenry. Well, what is the well-being of a citizenry? Well, the well-being of a citizenry is Do they have proper food? Are they under emotional stress? Do they have good relationships? Can they survive? Do they have money in the bank? It's many things contribute to life expectancy. Do the people around them, are they being taken care of? Do the veterans who come from war, are they, with their PTSD, are they creating more stress in those communities for themselves and others? All of these things, it's not any one single thing. It's not just, oh, they got the jab or not. It is a whole set of things, okay? It is many, many things that contribute to this very, very specific graph I just shared with you. And it's important to understand it is not any one thing, okay? So we'll have suddenly people say, oh my God, it was the vaccines. No, it's not any one thing. That's a contributor to it. It is many things have contributed to this deviation. And by the way, many other countries are typically 10 years behind the United States. The same thing is going to take place. Now, so this is what occurred all the way up to around 2014, okay, 2015, okay? Now what happens? So what you've done is you've destroyed, as a biologist, as a systems biologist, as a PhD in systems biology, in biological engineering, as one of the world's leading scientists on the immune system, all right? I just have to give my credentials because Elon Musk doesn't have these credentials. Fucker Carlson doesn't have these credentials. Neither does Robert F. Kennedy. And I have to promote my credentials because there is so much effort to make what I do invisible. So I have to also do this other unfortunate self-promotional job to talk about myself. Okay. But you guys can also look that up. But the bottom line is, this is why I was able to predict in March of 2020, as James Richardson said, what would happen with the pandemic, because I've actually put in the time to work hard to learn this knowledge. But fundamentally, what you find is that the immune system, you can write that down, the immune system of the American public has been completely being destroyed over the last, not 10 years, 20 years, but going back to the last 60 years. Why? It is being destroyed by the policies. Policies. Write that down. Not by the Democrats, not by the Republicans, but the policies of the elites in power. It is the policies of the elites in power that have destroyed all of this. The policies of the left and the right. Of the left and the right, from the Kennedys to the Reagans, to the Bushes, to the Clintons, to the Bidens, to the Trumps, to the Jimmy Carters, all of them. It is not, and all of these people are culpable for this. All of them, all of these leaders, all the people in academia, all the scientists who have held big positions at Harvard, Yale, MIT, Stanford, all of those people. All of the big people in media, the big people, fucker Carlson, the heads of CNN, all of them. You cannot absolve any one of them because all of them were in power during this time. Look at the graph. Look at this graph carefully. It goes back to 1980. Has any one of them shared this graph with you? They have not, because they dare not share it because it exposes all of them. It exposes the elites, because they want to destroy people's health. They look into the future and they see how much they can destroy your health. Why? And this comes down to the systems dynamics of evil. The system dynamics of evil is to make you keep looking upward to false gods and false prophets for solving this problem when they are the ones who created this problem by design. This problem was created by design, by the Kennedys, by the Elon Musks, by all of them, the Reagans, etc. And you have to absorb this graph. And anyone who wants to keep supporting, thinking suddenly Tucker Carlson is some great savior, you have to have your head checked. This guy is the one, on the one hand, he was coming out on Fox News saying, oh my God, there's something wrong with the elections. But internally, he was writing text messages saying there's no election fraud, nothing. And that's why Dominion was able to win that lawsuit, because you had a duplicitous individual. Robert fucking Kennedy, for the last 10 years, and that's what he is. The F stands for fucking Kennedy. He is the establishment's next front man. He's a government front man to convince you that he is a fighter for medical freedom, okay? And you have to check out his physiognomy and his voice because it reflects his evilness. I really believe that. And why do I say that? Another man of contradictions, another man who thinks he can say one thing over here and do something over here. And this is a recurrent process of those in power and the elites. You will find one of the things the elites keep doing is one rule for them and another rule for thee. They will say something here and they'll do something completely contradictory. And then you are brainwashed into saying, well, I guess he had to say that because, you know, the Kennedys are good people and they had to do something for some reason. Oh, Tucker Carlson had to do that because what? He doesn't want to lose his $20 million a year job? You keep absolving them because of the brainwashing that has been systematically done. And what is that brainwashing? It is to tell you that you are less. You have no respect for yourself. That brainwashing is to tell you, oh, the elites there can say one thing and do another, but I have to work hard. I have to put money on the table, but they don't have to. Robert fucking Kennedy, there's a video of him explicitly saying, I believe in full vaccination of all Americans. Emphatically, I vaccinated all my kids with all 69 vaccines, all 6 of them. And then he goes on a tirade for the next 9 minutes in the video that we discovered, that we put out in 2020, exposing this fool, exposing this fraud, where he goes on to say for the next 9 minutes in that video, and I had to do the dirty work of exposing this to all these wealthy women in Scarsdale who want to screw Robert Kennedy and give him a lot of money because they think the Kennedys are people that you sleep with and you're great if you sleep with them. Okay? This is a brainwashing, but Robert fucking Kennedy vaccinated his children, all of them, and then has the gall to say, I vaccinated my children, but you shouldn't because the CDC is very corrupt. All these government officials are corrupt. And he goes on for 9 minutes in this video attacking the government for being corrupt. He did vaccinate his kids. And then telling you that I'm going to get them to make safe vaccines. Do you get this idiocracy of this fool? He is telling you that the vaccines are unsafe, but then he vaccinated all his kids. He believes in full vaccination of all Americans, but then he's telling you that somehow when he becomes president or whatever the hell he's been doing, collecting and begging for money. And by the way, you have to ask, why do the Kennedys beg for money? They're billionaires. Why do they need your money? Why do people give them money? Why do people give Donald Trump money? It's just brainwashing. But Robert Kennedy tells people that he is going to make these corrupt institutions suddenly create safe vaccines. Now, does that make any sense? Tell me, does that make any sense? Does it? Does it make any sense? It makes zero sense. Yet, when I expose this, you have a bunch of morons on Twitter saying, oh, Dr.SHIVA, well, you know, he had to do that. Well, he had to do that for what reason? That is your bloody brainwashing. You are excusing him, a false prophet from above, because he happens to have the name Kennedy, and he got a big silver spoon in his mouth from day one. He never had to earn anything bottoms up. All the degrees I got, everything I got, I had to earn. And these same people say that they know the plight of the middle class and the poor people. How can you be up here and know the plight? You don't know my plight. You don't know the discrimination I had to go through. You don't know the hard work I had to do, or all of you. And yet we keep choosing people, these false prophets from above, because they happen to say these words. Well, you have to start choosing leaders who actually have to live by their words and their deeds, guys like me. And that's why I'm running for president, because you deserve better. And I'm running for president to de-brainwash you, so you stop bowing down to false gods. That is what Shiva for President is about, and that is what our movement is about. Robert Kennedy, let's go back to that Robert fucking Kennedy. That's what the F stands for, Robert fucking Kennedy. Write it down, Robert fucking Kennedy. And I sincerely abuse these people because they deserve to be abused. Because we have been brainwashed in the engrams and the neural networks of our brain to give respect to these people when they do not deserve one iota of respect. Here's Robert fucking Kennedy in the middle of COVID, and towards the end of, in the middle of COVID, where he's saying the mRNA vaccine is bad, right? It is a experimental vaccine. It violates the Nuremberg Code. People in Germany know that he swooped in and talked all this stuff. Talk. Yet, in his own bloody house, at a party on December 21st, 2022, everyone was ordered to be vaccinated with the mRNA vaccine. In his own house at a house party. Now, how can you possibly follow some fool like this? You have to have your head checked. Robert fucking Kennedy forced everyone to make sure that they were vaccinated with the COVID mRNA vaccine in his own home. So medical tyranny in his home, but medical freedom. I mean, come on, what is this guy? Where is this guy coming from? What is he made of? What does he have any integrity? Yet you believe he's a leader? Come on. I didn't see him, as James said in 2020, when we ran the Fire Fauci campaign. This guy was nowhere to be found. Why? Because his brain is fried and he comes from the elites. He doesn't want to protect Fauci. He waited a year and then he wrote a book. By the way, he didn't write the book. Every book I write. He has ghostwriters write his book. These people don't do any work, guys. They ski in Aspen. They play with their falcons. They bang as many people they have. They have open relationships. They have no integrity. And yet you think they are your leaders. So he vaccinated. You have to be vaccinated to come into your home. Michelle, my partner, lost her job because he chose not to be vaccinated as a healthcare worker. That is called principled decisions. I chose not to be. I had to fight wherever I went against a mask. It was our movement that did the first science of masks in 2019 and 2020, exposing that masks do not work. He didn't do that. So it is time that you recognize that Robert fucking Kennedy is a false god, a false prophet. And I could keep going on and on and on. He's the one who wanted strict lockdowns. Lockstep and barrel with Fauci. You can go look it up. He wants to jail, Robert effing Kennedy wants to jail people who are climate skeptics. Why do we bow down to Robert fucking Kennedy? Why? Ask yourself. And that will lead you to a very important answer. And the answer is you've been brainwashed by wanting to give all of your self-respect to people from above when you are the one who works. You're the one who creates anything. These people do not create anything. You know what they create? They create that graph. Look at that graph again. That's what they have delivered. They have delivered suffering for humanity. They've delivered the lowest life expectancy going the other way. Now, when you look at this graph, I'm not done with this graph. So this is what they delivered. Now, as many of you know, in 2020, it was our movement. It was my hard effort, doing all my businesses, plus spending at least 3-4 hours with very little sleep, teaching you about the immune system. All of this stuff that they did, for the last 60 years destroyed the immune systems of people. And how do I know that? Because when a quote unquote pandemic did hit the United States, look what it did. Look what it did in this graph. Okay? This is what it did. Let me show you. This is what it resulted in. Boom. Do you see that? That's what happened. Now, that is even a further indictment of these fools, because what that means is people's immune system in the United States were so bad that they went downward. Now, the other countries were a little bit better, but the fake food in the United States, the massive stress, the average American worker only has $400 in their bank account. How does Robert fucking Kennedy know about that? How can he ever sympathize with the average? Oh, I understand the plight of the middle class. No, you don't. No, you don't. You can say that, but you don't. So before COVID hit, it was already going down. And because of the destruction of the immune system, that's what occurred. Because they want to kill people. That is a takeaway from this. And let me just go a little more deeper into this graph. And if you really look at this, let me draw some trend lines here, some basic, simple mathematical trend lines, and you'll see The rest of the world's going like this. We're going in that direction. And how do you change this? How do you change this? As James just said, you need a systems overhaul. This is not going to occur with a tweak by thinking Tucker Carlson's going to do something. And we'll talk about fucker Carlson shortly. Or Elon Musk is going to fight for free speech. What's going to happen is, if you keep doing this, if you remember the old Lucy cartoon, Charlie Brown runs to Lucy thinking she's going to let him hit the ball. She never does. That's called insanity. If you keep thinking that the Democrats or Republicans or those in power are going to do something different for you, you must have your head checked. You are insane. If you think these people are going to do something different, whatever part of the world you are, it's insanity. These people do not care for you. So let's go to the system dynamics of evil. They know that our movement, Truth, Freedom, and Health exists. They know it is being led by someone like me who has never betrayed the working class or the people that I come from, be it in New Jersey or India. They know that I've understood the political science of systems, the engineering science, and the medical science of systems. They know that I am loyal to where I came from. And I am bottoms up, guys, as bottoms up as you get. They are all top down. Elon Musk, a silver spoon in his mouth. Tucker Carlson, a big silver spoon in his mouth. And the Kennedys, a big silver spoon in his mouth. Their mouths. They are not one of you. They are not one of you. And I'm the only one running for president in the United States who comes from below and who has a movement that is educating people to raise their consciousness to understand the system dynamics. And what is that system dynamics? This is how it works. And all of you listening, if you want to really learn this, go to shivaforpresident.com, volunteer. But if you want to understand this, go to truthfreedomhealth.com, become a warrior scholar, and you will understand the system's dynamics of how you're being fucked every day. Because that is what they're doing to you. And those are the kind of words you must use. And you must teach that to your children, when to curse at the right time. Not all the time, but at the right time. So what is that system dynamics? Well, first of all, they have sensors, you see. Sensors are one of the 9 principles of all systems. Sensors are the ability to capture data to see what's going on. They have hundreds of millions of cameras everywhere nowadays. You know that. On social media is a government-controlled entity, which is our lawsuit exposed. It is completely controlled by government. They capture every word you say, every emotion is being dissected, every sentiment. Through a technology called principal component analysis, what you may call AI, etc. These things are being analyzed. Those are their sensors. They know exactly what you will buy tomorrow. They know exactly what you will do based on your past activity, because they want to treat you like automatons. But what they do not know is that when you raise your consciousness, they can't model that through AI. They can't model that. They can model the repetitive brainwashing. So with all of this data that's being grabbed, they know the directionality of humanity. And today they know that directionality is breaking from the establishment. People are breaking from the establishment. They're looking for alternatives. They are looking for our movement, Truth, Freedom, Health. The reason I corrected John Medlar is all those videos we did reached hundreds and hundreds of millions of people during 2020 and 2021. Wherever I travel, people say, Dr. Shiva, I saw your video. Thank you so much for giving me the vitamin D3 protocol. This was in 2020. And so what they did was they understood where things were going. Holy shit, people are breaking from us. They're starting to listen to this guy, Dr. Shiva. They're becoming members of the Truth, Freedom, and Health movement. These videos are going viral. What do we do? So remember, their goal is power, profit, and control. So what they did was they created false gods and false prophets, and they promoted them. They made us invisible. So you understand which way the slaves are going. In the old days, they would just take a hammer or a gun and shoot you, right? If you try to fight. But then they got sophisticated. They said, shoot, we don't want to do that because we're going to get these people even more angry. And there will be martyrs. They don't want martyrs. So we said we will silence them, character assassinate their leaders. And we will give them false leaders, false gods. And these false leaders and false gods will corral people to new institutions where we will control them even further. This is a systematic process. Step one, understand where the slaves are going. Oh, the slaves are waking up. Step two, create a false idol and a false god. Push them in front of the slaves. Make invisible the true bottoms-up leaders. That's part of step two, 2A and 2B. And then corral these people into institutions controlled by those false gods so we could bring them back to the establishment. And why do I say this? Well, as a scientist, as an engineer, you actually look at data. You have a hypothesis, and you look at it and you see the same laws of physics. In the 1900s, as many of you in our movement, if you take the course and you learn, the Indian people in India were rising up for a true systems overhaul revolutionary change. Those in power created a guy. And when they create a false god, listen to me, they actually create a false god. They created someone called Mahatma Gandhi. That wasn't even his name. Please Google right now what the word Mahatma means. Google it. Type in M-A-H-A-T-M-A. Look it up. It means saint. It means God. Okay? So they gave him the name Mahatma Gandhi. His name was Mohandas K. Gandhi. They made him Mahatma. They gave him a white robe. They put on spectacles. And overnight, Indians, bottoms up, they had amazing leaders, names who've been completely made invisible. And these leaders wanted systemic change. They wanted massive change for the hundreds of millions of people in India to throw off the yoke of oppressive colonialism. And that was coming up bottoms up. You get what I'm saying? And to replace that energy, that consciousness, they created Mahatma. It's so fucked up, okay? They created this Mahatma, a god. And he gets all this publicity. And all the people get corralled into him, and he created an institution with the British called the Indian National Congress. And that institution, they allowed all the brown people in there to fight and everything. They thought they had democracy. And what they did was they transferred power from the elite white men with crowns of British to the elite Indians. They quelled the revolution. And for 70, 80 years, India continued to have massive corruption. How does a country with massive amounts of wealth never really progress fully? Thank you to Mahatma Gandhi. Now, in the United States, they did the same thing. The civil rights movement was coming up with poor blacks and poor whites demanding infrastructure in the inner cities, because poor blacks and poor whites realized that they didn't have proper food, they didn't have proper education. And those civil rights movements were coming up. Again, bottoms up, they sensed it. So they go get this guy, Martin Luther. That's not even his name. Martin Luther. John, who was Martin Luther?
You mean the one who started Protestantism?
Yes. So, but he was a big name, right? So they take Martin Luther, that wasn't his name, and they give him that name. Again, doesn't it sound, they create another false god. You see how they do this? And who did this? Robert F. Kennedy, Robert fucking Kennedy's father. He did. He was Attorney General of the United States. He was bugging all the civil rights leaders, and they promoted Martin Luther King. As Malcolm X said, the March on Washington, where he gives a speech, "I have a dream," was a complete circus. It was beautifully organized. They corralled everyone to the Washington, the mall, gives a speech. And then the result was they didn't address infrastructure in the inner cities. What they did was they created something called affirmative action to pit blacks against whites. It was a reform that was necessary to give blacks, but it wasn't the real solution, you see? So what ended up happening, you create a pencil-thin strata of black bourgeois like Obama, right? But it never rose up all the poor blacks and poor whites in the United States. They had no interest in doing that. So again, that is what is happening right now. They know that our movement, they're tracking everything. The only reason I was put back on Twitter was for one reason, is to do the predictive analytics on my followers. What does that mean? That means they're watching all of my followers. They're gathering data on who these people are. They're building a profile through a technique called pattern analysis, principal component analysis. And they know, oh, Dr. Shiva's followers all have this pattern. Let me go across the billions of people, find those other people, and then we will deliver them data to confuse them. Crystal Ellis will tell you, she doesn't follow Robert F. Kennedy. Suddenly she starts getting emails and notifications from him. Why? It's called manipulation, predictive analytics. My followers stay at the same level. Every time I do a tweet, I see my followers grow and you see them being eaten away. It is called the digital cage. That is what Elon Musk is. Elon Musk doesn't give a damn about free speech. If he did, he would have taken down the backdoor portal to government. Every time I bring it up, he doesn't address it. Every time we hammer it on it, suddenly he gets on Tucker Carlson, two complete evil individuals. Evil 1, evil 2, evil 3. Talking about suddenly, oh yeah, there's this backdoor portal. Are you fucking serious? This was brought out in 2020. Fucker Carlson, we have the emails. We sent it to him. He did not cover it. Fucker Carlson is trying to use the masses to protect himself because he did a duplicitous job at Fox News. Outwardly, he was talking about, oh yeah, election fraud to get all the eyeballs. Internally, he was saying there is no election fraud. That's in the courtroom transcripts. This guy is a fraud. Fucker Carlson is a fraud. F, F, F. He gets a big F. He's a fraud. He's Fucker Carlson. Go read the transcripts. He was telling his right-wing conservatives, oh yeah, there's election fraud. Internally in text messages saying, this is bullshit. You get it? You see what I'm saying? One rule for them and another rule for us. And all these idiots are being trained. Oh yeah, Tucker suddenly, yes, he's fighting evil. He's for truth. No, he isn't. Where was he in 2020? When we gave him the fact that we had discovered the backdoor portal in courtroom testimony. He didn't cover it then. Why? Why? Because our movement is an independent movement. We don't bow down to the Democrats. We don't bow down to the Republicans. We are completely independent of them. And that bothers them, which means we cannot be controlled. We don't need 20 million bucks a year. We don't just appeal to the right or the left. So Fucker Carlson didn't cover us. He's a selfish, anti-American. He's not a patriot. He's anti-American. Because had he covered the findings of our lawsuit in 2020, we could have stopped a lot of this. He didn't do shit. He's a motherfucker, Carlson. That's what he is. Do not give these people any respect. And those people have him calling him Fucker Carlson. Please do not follow me. You don't deserve your consciousness raised because I'm telling you the truth. Fucker Carlson fucked all of you. That's why he's called Fucker Carlson. And now he's doing these speeches. Oh, yeah, we must fight evil. Telling the truth is fighting evil. Yeah, well, talk is cheap, fucker. Where were you in 2020? Hold people up to higher standards. Fine, if you're going to want to redeem yourself, then you must pay penance as all the great spiritual leaders. If you're going to just say, oh, I did wrong, well, what are you going to pay? Are you going to put us back on? Are you going to apologize to us? I haven't seen an apology. Has anyone seen an apology from Fucker Carlson to our movement? Zero. It was our movement which got the word out to 300 million people. It was our movement that exposed the fundamental issues with the vaccines. It was our movement in 2020 that called out Fauci. None of these guys were there. Musk is now saying, oh yeah, Fauci should be indicted. Are you fucking serious? You're the one who took 2 jabs of the vaccine, Elon. You take drugs all day. You're in with government. $5.7 billion you get for SpaceX to put up Starlink satellites, which will watch all of our movements of every human being on the planet. You got another $1.5 billion in carbon tax credits because you believe in the climate scam along with Kennedy. You want to subjugate all human beings. Your Tesla $600 billion valuation came at the scam of carbon tax credits. And your Twitter, the only reason it's worth more than $2 or $3 billion is because of Section 230 immunity with the unholy alliance with Silicon Valley and Congress. You are a government frontman. Admit it. Tucker Fucker Carlson is a government frontman. Kennedy is a government frontman. And this knowledge, this system dynamics of watching a movement come up like ours, like they did in the 1900s, the 1960s. They see us coming up, guys. So they're creating the Musks. They're creating the fucker Carlsons. They're creating the Kennedys. These people didn't save people's lives, did they, James? I didn't see them in 2020. Our movement saved millions of people's lives. And guess what? We're bottoms up. I'm as bottoms up as you get. They're top down. So the system dynamics, the last piece of it, is to convince you that two parts, you must always look above, beg to these people, and not value yourselves by absolving them of these contradictions. They want you to push under the rug their contradictions. No, you can't do that. Because when you do that, they will kill you, which they're doing with that curve, and your children. That's what they want. This is all talk, guys. So our run for president, the reason our movement exists is to raise consciousness. And my run for president is historic on two accounts. First of all, I'm a naturalized citizen. I'm demanding that the United States government follow the Constitution. The Constitution says you cannot discriminate between a native born and a naturalized citizen. It's in black and white. So any idiot who says, oh, you can't run, yes, I can. Go read the Constitution. You probably were smoking weed in the back of the classroom when history class was being taught. Stop smoking weed, okay? Get healthy and read the fucking Constitution. I will run, and we will create a massive movement to expose these people for what they are. That's why we're running. And our movement, Truth, Freedom, and Health, is educating you. It is educating you on how to take care of your immune system. That's our healthcare platform. Our environmental policies, start learning how to support your local farmers. Start learning how to eat organic, good, healthy foods. Our movement for education is learn truth from lies, learn the science of systems. Our platform for innovation is we're going to teach your kids how to make stuff and innovate. Our platform for financial systems is we're going to teach you what is a profit and loss statement, what is cash flow. We're going to teach people real skills. We're not going to wait for these fucking people. They will do nothing. We need a systems overhaul. They want to kill you. I want to heal you. They want to destroy you. I want you to destroy them. That is what this movement is about. We need a systems overhaul. Period. And any one of you who has a problem with me using the term fucker Carlson, let me repeat, or Robert fucking Kennedy, or exposing Elon Musk, please, please, please go look at what food you're eating. Go look at if you have any self-respect and dignity for yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror, because these are the facts. And ask yourself why, after the preponderance of facts that I've shared today, why you still want to suck these people's you-know-what off every day, and why you bow down to them. You have to ask yourself that, because that is what you're doing mentally, emotionally, spiritually, economically. That is what you're doing. And you are not setting any standard for your children. But our movement and the leaders that we are building globally will be uncompromising with these points we've shared today, because this is a system dynamics of evil to make you a slave. And this discourse today gives you the opportunity to break from that. So do as you wish. Go to truthfreedomhealth.com, learn the science of systems, because that will be your foundation. And if you want to help our campaign, go to shivaforpresident.com and support this historic campaign. But most importantly, do it to support yourself. Do it because you believe you have dignity and you have respect for yourselves. But if you want to be a slave, continue supporting fucker Carlson, continue supporting Robert fucking Kennedy, and thinking Elon Musk is your false god. Everyone on Zoom, stay here while I sign off to the rest of the world. Thank you, everyone. And by the way, this evening at 8 p.m., if you go to vashiva.com/orientation, you're welcome to join our 8 p.m. open house if you missed it today. So I wish you all well, to those of you out in the world of social media, but I have to go back to our open house. Thank you.